Hey guys, this is Stinger from the Ghost Squadron Airsoft team, and today I'm going to be showing you guys how to remove or how to access your motor on an AR-15 style airsoft rifle. Applies to M4s, M16s. Actually, for the most part, pretty much all version 2 gearbox guns are very similar, where the motor is stored in the pistol grip down here. So this is very similar to AKs, but there are some variances. So this is my custom M4, the Wraith. Pretty much full metal except for the crane stock, and the pistol grip is polymer. And we will be removing the pistol grip to access the motor. You can remove the upper receiver to make it easier, but I'm not going to. It just makes it so that what you're working with is smaller and weighs less. So some of the things you're going to need, this is about a 5mm Phillips head screwdriver right here. You're going to need this, some needle nose pliers, and a 2mm hex key or an Allen wrench. So the first thing that we're going to have to do is to remove the heatsink on the bottom here. Some guns just have a base plate here. Mine is a heatsink. It's made out of metal and it's vented all the way through to help the motor breathe and cool better, because when it's spinning quickly, especially if you're using an 11.1 volt LiPo like I am, it generates a lot of heat, and you need to get that out of there before it overheats, because that could be bad. Now, the first and most common mistake that a lot of people make is to remove this screw, or try to remove it with a flathead screwdriver. That's bad. This actually adjusts the engagement position of the pinion gear to the bevel gear, and I'll show you a little bit more later. So the first thing that you actually have to do is take the 2mm hex key and remove these hex screws right here. And they can be on pretty tight. Especially if it's your first time doing this, then they will be on tighter because they've been put on very tight from the factory or the assembler. So make sure that when you do this, you hold this down because it's kind of spring loaded. You'll see once we get the motor out, because it will try to pop up. And this is extremely tight. I might have over tightened it when I put this back on. Just make sure you hold the heatsink or the grip base plate down while unscrewing this. Prevent from just popping off. Alright, now you can take it like that. Whoops, don't lose the screws. So sometimes this little spacer down in here can fall out, so make sure you watch that. Mine's in there pretty good, so I don't really worry about it too much. So just make sure you keep track of the screws. So you can see the bottom of the motor here. There's two wires, red and black, going to it. What you're going to have to do is disconnect them with the needle nose pliers. I find it most easy to do it with needle nose pliers. So just disconnect them like that, and then you can just remove the motor itself. It's not screwed in at all. So I find it easy to use the pliers to kind of just pry up on it a little bit and then grab it. Whoops. And just pull it right out. Just like that. So there's the spring that keeps it spring loaded in there, and that is the pinion gear right there on the end of the motor pinion. And what I was talking about before, adjusting this right here adjusts how low the motor sits down into here, like that. So the lower, the tighter it engages the bevel gear, which is down in there inside the gearbox. Obviously, the farther away, the less it does that. So that's how you access the motor. If you want to take your grip off, there's two screws down in there, which is what this screwdriver is for. You probably can't see them, but there are two screws down there. So just unscrew them. Come on. Just be sure to not let the screws drop into the gearbox, because that can be bad. So once you've loosened those 2 screws, just pull up on the pistol grip. Make sure that you thread the wires out. Alright, there we go. So I left the 2 screws inside the holes that they were originally in. I don't want them to fall out just because it's harder to get them back in there if they do. So now you can see the bottom of the gearbox right here. Inside there is the bevel gear. I don't think that you can see it very well, but it's just right in there. That's what the pinion gear engages. And on my specific model of gun, I have a little cutout right here that allows you to pull the anti-reversal latch and take all the tension out of the gearbox and basically just uncompress the spring completely. And that's good if you're going to open up the gearbox, because that prevents everything from exploding and flying everywhere when you pull it apart. Not all guns have that little cutout in there. Lots of people like to make the cutout themselves in the body of the gearbox and just do some modding so that they can do that. You can also see the bushing for the bevel gear right there. That's an 8mm steel bushing. There's one on the other side. And of course you can access the wires this way. So putting it back together is just the exact opposite of what we just did. I'll show you that right now. You're going to take the pistol grip, make sure you get the wires through the holes on the bottom. Alright. Just thread it back through. Line up the grooves here on the pistol grip and just slide it right on. Then use your screwdriver again to tighten up those screws that are on the bottom. There's 2 of them. Take the motor, make sure you line it back up the same way that it came out. For me, it's with the red facing forward like that. And just drop it right in. And you might want to make sure that when you do it, the wires are in the proper position for you to be able to reconnect them. Alright, make sure it's seated correctly. It's on that spring so it bounces up and down. Now start reconnecting the wires. Sometimes this can be a bit tricky. You want to make sure that they stay down there, otherwise the gun won't shoot, of course. Alright. I'm just going to give them a little pull to ensure that they are attached completely. Tuck the wires down. Get the heat sink or base plate. Actually, this screw got misaligned, so I'm just going to put that right back down into the hole. Okay. Put the heat sink or base plate right back on. You might have to push on it and hold it down a little bit because it's spring loaded. And then start tightening the screws. These are the hex key screws. 2mm, at least on mine. And they won't be hex keys on all guns. For example, I believe on Shadow's XCRC by Echo 1, it is actually just Phillips head screws. It might be the same way on Killer's G&G, GR16 Combat Machine M4. But on mine, they are hex key screws. Alright, make sure that there's no wobble. Should have it screwed in there pretty good. And it's good to go. Alright, so that was very easy. If you want to swap out your motor, that's good. If you're wondering what motor is in this, that's a Lonex A5, high magnetism, optimized well for torque. I'm running it with an M120 spring in here. And I've got some Lonex 18:1 heat-treated steel gears with, like I said, 8mm steel bushings. And a Lonex Extreme Toughness polycarbonate piston, has 10 steel teeth on it. The angle of engagement is corrected with a spacer from the factory. The piston head is ported and it's polycarbonate. And the cylinder is made out of heat-treated steel. So, that is the end of this video. I hope this helped you guys if you want to change out your motor or just inspect it, or to adjust the wiring down there. And I'll see you guys later.
Joseph's back here. Oh, did he? Yeah. Pretty sure I hit Frankie. Whoa!